Hey friends, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to share with you a few tips and tricks for how to make your eyes look bigger naturally. Okay, so I've done some recent videos on eye makeup tips that I will link those down below, but this particular video is about natural looking larger eyes. So this is when you don't want to walk in a room and be like, oh my God, your eye makeup looks amazing. You just want to walk in a room and look amazing. So these are little subtle tips and tricks in makeup that you can apply to enhance your eyes, make them brighter, wider, more open. So before we get started, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Lisa and I'm a former makeup artist and MAC trainer. And I say that because I love teaching makeup. That is what gives me like joy and pride. Those are the videos that I'm most proud of here on YouTube. So if you enjoy those types of videos, be sure and subscribe. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get started. So this video is going to be really focused on technique, not so much of product, but I will list all the products in the description box in case you're interested in picking any of them up. I'll also list some other recommendation of products down below. So for this, let's mainly focus on technique, because what you will find is that you don't need this brand of shadow. You don't need this particular product. You likely have something at home that'll make do. All right, you guys, so tip number one is starting with an eye primer, but choosing the right eyeshadow primer. So eyeshadow primer is super important. I never apply eye makeup without applying one because, why would you spend the time doing your eye makeup if you don't have a primer on to keep it on all day? But the tip here is to avoid a primer that has color or pigment to it and avoid a thicker consistency. So for example, I talk about the Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize, the original formula, not a fan of the new ones, but the original little pots. Now these could be considered an eye primer even though they look beautiful alone, but this has pigment to it. This has color to it, right? It has a lot of shimmer to it. It's a heavier, thicker formula. So avoid things like this and find lighter weight, translucent, clear primers like the Hydro Grip or the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip Eye Primer. This is great. It is translucent. It has no color to it. It really looks and feels a lot like a skincare product. You put it on the eyelid, blend it in with your finger, and it completely disappears. So the reason obviously that you want to do that is because the goal here is to keep the eye makeup looking natural, not heavy, not overdone. So the next tip is to choose an all over like shadow, and it doesn't have to be a shadow. You will find, I'm going to share a face powder here in a second, that has a very slight sheen or a very soft shimmer shadow. The reason you want to have a little bit of a sheen or a shimmer is because that reflects light and it makes things look like they're protruding or they're coming towards you, right? But you want to avoid a real shimmery or frosty shadow simply because the idea here is to not look like you have, a lot of makeup on. So actually, I personally find that you can find this in some face highlighters. I particularly love like the Hourglass, the Ambient Light, Soft Radiant Light, Golden Bronze kind of trio. And you can use the thinner one that has a little bit of a sheen to it and take a big fluffy like blending brush and brush that all over the lid from the lashes to the eyebrow. Now, what I have on my eyes has a little bit more of a shimmer to it, but I still think it's pretty and it works. And it is the shimmer shadow from the Wayne Goss palette right here. But the key here is, this is a beautiful shimmer, but it can get a little more frosty than I'd like if I were to use, it's not focusing, come focus. Okay, well, let's just move on. But if you use a big fluffy brush, that's going to soften that shimmer and not apply it too intensely. So I use the Angie crease brush right here. You can also use, any brush that's about this size and fluffy versus a brush that's like this, for example. This is the other one from the Angie collection. Do you see how this is more dense and tightly packed? This is gonna pick up product and deposit it really, intensely, or this is going to be more of a sheer wash of product. So use a brush like this, use a lighter like ivory bone champagne shade that has a little bit of shimmer, and keep it on the lid and underneath the brow, because it's basically going to lift that brow and make the brow appear, brow bone appear like it's kind of coming out, as well as the eyelid. Now, when you move to the crease, that is where you want to find a matte shadow. Matte tends to, and you want it to be darker because darker matte shadows recede light, so it absorbs light, it kind of creates more definition. Think of when we contour our face, we use a dark and then we highlight right here because we're basically creating structure. So that's what you're doing in the crease. You're contouring the eye essentially. So you want to find a matte shade that is a few shades deeper than your skin tone. I actually used a bronzer today, and you can see that it gives a little definition, but it's actually pretty soft and natural because it is intended to be, you know, like a natural looking product on the face. If you don't have a bronzer, if your bronzer is too orangey or too warm, then find something that's a little cooler. I actually love this little Naked 2 Basics palette. I think this palette looks it doesn't look very appealing, it looks very boring, but this is such a great palette to have. You have some good shades here to put all over, and then you have these cool tone matte shades to work into the crease. So this is one that I also love, but you know, keep it very simple. You just need one all over shade and one matte shade that's a little bit darker than your skin tone. Don't go too dark. You don't want to go too dark because then again, we look heavy and made up, and that's not what we're going for. So when it comes to eyeliner, avoid taking the eyeliner from the inner corners out, okay? Try and keep your eyeliner starting about halfway on the lash line and working out and lifting up if you can, but avoid going all the way in, you know, and that's just lining your eyes. Again, these are just tips and tricks if you're trying to make your eyes look bigger naturally. You will find sometimes I will use liquid liner and I will go all the way in because it's a pretty look, but when I'm trying to have my eyes look big, open, and natural, I'm gonna just line halfway out. When you line all the way in, it can tend to close up the eye a little bit, especially if you have small or hooded eyes and you don't have a lot of lid space. That liner can just basically cover your entire lid, so when your eyes are open and you're talking to someone like we always do, they don't see anything but that liner. So start halfway out, work its way. I like to use a pencil because it's a little bit softer, so it looks less noticeable than like a liquid black liner pen. And I would use a deep brown shade. I think brown just looks more natural than black, and you can soften and smoke it with the brush if you want, but the idea is to get a kind of softer lined pencil halfway on your lash line and out. Same thing for the lower lash line, but I actually do switch to a lighter pencil here. So use like a really pretty bronze shade, something medium, not too dark, something that looks, you know, very soft. The idea is that you want it to look soft. I also like pencils that have a little bit of shimmer because again, that shimmer reflects light, so it doesn't look so stark and harsh. Eyeshadow stick crayons are really nice. I have been using this one by Tarte a lot. It has a little shadow stick on the side, or on one side of it, and then a pencil on the other, and this is like a taupey shade. These are really nice too because again, it just creates a soft look, and again, outer to about halfway in. Don't go all the way in because it's just going to close the eye up. Also with liner, this is going to make a huge difference in your eyes looking bigger and brighter and natural, and that is lining the waterline with a brightening pencil. I have a few that I love. This one is, I believe, from Sephora, or is it Makeup Forever? I can't remember what I just did my makeup and I can't remember. Oh no, it's by Inglot. I like this one by Inglot. I used this one when I did my makeup today and it's really beautiful, but avoid a really white one because white looks stark and weird. Find something that has a little bit of yellow, a little bit of peach, or even a little bit of pink, but you don't want it to be stark white. You want it to just, you know, look natural. And then the last tip that I have is taking that same shadow that you used all over, that shimmery or that light shimmer, light sheen shadow, and placing it in the inner corner of the eye. Do you see how I have that? So remember, anything light with a little bit of a sheen or shimmer to it is going to reflect light and make things look just brighter and more open and larger. So when you put that here, you're basically kind of like making the eye look larger. It's opening that eye up and kind of creating more space here. So that is a subtle little tip or trick that is also going to make the eyes look more natural. But again, it's all about placement and it's all about the products that you use. Use softer, fluffier brushes. Avoid really dense or precise or packed brushes. You don't want it to look too intentional. You want it to just think of like a sheer wash of color versus like a packed eyeshadow on the lid. You know what I mean? If you think about those two, you want to go the more sheer wash of color, natural, to create, you know, naturally more bright open eyes without looking heavily made up. And those are my tips and tricks. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you picked up anything, let me know in the comments down below. And again, I will link some other videos where I share other eye makeup tips that necessarily aren't specific to naturally looking, you know, having your eyes look naturally larger, but look a little bit more glam, a little bit more made up. You'll actually find the tips are very similar, right? It's just a different product and a different type style of brush that you're using to place it. So you'll find that, you know, a lot of these tips are kind of similar. It's just tweaking the products and the placement and the brushes and tools that you use. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next video. I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye guys.